right, have taken the choice to be a good dad, good husband, and a good CEO, right? Which means that I'm actually probably not the best son I could be, and that I feel upset by. I'm probably not the best friend that I could be. I feel upset by that. But something's got to give.
Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about living a life that reflects your values and priorities. Welcome to Engineer Your Success, the podcast that helps you lead with intention and live fulfilled.
Welcome to the Engineer Your Success podcast. I'm your host, Dr. James Bryant, and your guide for winning at work and at home. Our guest today is Amrit Dhaliwal, an entrepreneur who has built and sold businesses across very different industries, often without having a clear roadmap at the start. Early on in his career, his default response to problems was really simple: work more hours, push harder, and figure it out later. Does that sound familiar? In this conversation, we talk about what that approach builds and what it costs. You'll hear about how his journey moved from running delis, restaurants, home healthcare, into now building a national franchise, and how those experiences shaped the way he thinks about leadership, hiring, cash flow, and growth. The conversation also talks about the impact of building and growing these businesses had on his family and the choices that he had to make so that he could win at work and at home. Okay, let's dive in.
I'm Amrit Dhaliwal. I'm the CEO and founder of Wallfinch. Wallfinch is a home care franchising business. I started my career in a whole different thing, really. If I go all the way back to 10 years old, I was selling football posters in the playground and moved on to various other sort of fun side hustles. The kids are calling them nowadays, but when I was growing up, it was just getting through it. And I went to university, came out, read economics and history, and I thought, gosh, I don't want to work for anyone. Did about 8 months in a job and thought that's enough clocking in and clocking out for a lifetime, I think. I was able to get some funding together, got involved in an Italian deli. Had no idea how to run an Italian deli. Built that up. Then I was at the same time opened a tea room, and then I built that, won some awards, sold it, reinvested that into my deli, made that into an Italian restaurant. In the midst of all of this, met my now wife, my then girlfriend. And I realized that working 90 hours a week and not getting paid like a trader wasn't the way forward. So seeing as date night was Monday night, I was having a coffee with my then girlfriend. And I said, Trishna, I've got lots to give. Who can I give it to? And she said, have you thought about domiciliary care? I was 26 at the time. So, like every self respecting 25-year-old, I said, what the hell is that? Next thing I know, I've bought a franchise in home care. And I realized this is back in 2012. In September, I signed my contract. In November, I got my registration with the regulator. And by February, I'd taken my first client on. I realized by April, this was my 20-year mission. Home care and franchising was broken in the UK, and I needed to fix it. So I built the business up over the next 4 or 5 years to 1 million in revenue and sold it. Took that as a treasure chest, started my own home care franchising operation, and now we're across the UK supporting entrepreneurs to achieve their dreams.
You said you started an Italian deli and you didn't know anything about owning or operating a deli. So, how did you approach that?
So it was really odd, actually. I mean, I'd watched Goodfellas, right? So I was like, how different could it be? It was a going concern, and I'd bought it from this very cool guy. He was about 67 years old, but looked about 28. This old Italian chap, Angelo, and the place was called Angelo's. And I bought it. I didn't do any due diligence, and my stupidity was my weapon. I got in, and I thought, right, okay, cool. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make Italian food. I don't know how to make coffee. I'm not good with wine. I literally have no skills at all. And also, I'm going to run out of money really quickly, which I didn't know then. And so all of these things were very, very useful. I thought, okay, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to hire a really good Italian chef. Did that. There was this old Italian gentleman, Gerardo. He was very difficult, but actually very good. And I realized over time that what I need to do is surround myself with a full Italian team that knew the food, could tell me, hold on, this pasta's, overcooked or whatever it is, and people that had been in restaurants. I actually went about accumulating really good staff by accident because I didn't know. And I've taken that through my whole career since then. If I just get the best people, well, they'll do it and they'll tell me what's not going right. We had lots of trouble and I ran into cash flow issues because I didn't know. But then you figure it out. You sort of sell the wine today, pay for it tomorrow, and you figure all that out. My interesting learns were how to hire and how to fire. I remember firing the first guy. Oh my God, that was brutal. And then my other really interesting learns were how to stretch a pound, really figure
Mm,
that out. So,
yeah.
okay, I've got to pay rent. I've got to pay for all of this stuff over here, and I've got to pay my staff salaries every week. And figuring that part out was really interesting. And that actually may be one of the most useful things I've ever done.
Okay. You grew up from a deli to a full blown restaurant.
I did.
You,
Yeah.
you sold the restaurant.
Well, in the midst of this, I'd actually started a tea room. I went to this place in Bath in the UK, and it was beautiful. And there was these old Roman baths there, and they had this very, very beautiful old huge tea room. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm paying £30 for scones and tea. What the hell is going on here? I know the margins on this. I need to do this. This is great. This is better than selling booze. I went back and I found this old fashion boutique in this near my restaurant, and they'd closed down. And so I called the landlord again, no business plan or lots of cash. And I was like, well, I think I can just operate this from the cash flow from that, and I think it'll take off. And fortunately for me, it did, and I got an interior designer involved. It was really interesting because there's a whole world I had no idea about. But selling that business, I built it, won an award, sold it within 10 months. And it was this huge cash injection, which I
Yeah.
was like, wow, it was like all the money in the world. And then I put it all into the restaurant. And I realized since then that it's this revolving door of capital that keeps you floating. I'm not great with having business partners, really, and external capital. And I think actually this is an interesting way to do that and to build your fortune that way.
Yeah. I think it helps if you're not good with external partners and you're able to get that internal engine where you're able to generate the cash flow for that business as well as resources that you can invest into some of the other ventures that you have in mind. That is, I guess, somewhat the best of all worlds in a sense.
Yeah, in many ways, truly.
This is Dr. James Bryant, the coach in your corner. If you're an engineering leader who wants to win at work and at home without burning out in the process, I want to invite you to take the next step. Every week, I help my private clients bring order back to their leadership, their schedules, and their life, not because they're doing something wrong, but because success has become too heavy to carry alone. Together, we'll build the clarity, confidence, and systems you need to lead with purpose while staying present for the people who matter most, including yourself. If you're ready to build a career and a life that you don't need to take a vacation from, visit engineeryoursuccessnow.com to schedule your complimentary integrated success strategy call. Let's engineer your success together so you can win at work and at home. Okay, so your girlfriend at the time makes the suggestion that you get into home healthcare, home care,
Yep.
and you take the leap, you buy a franchise. How was that transition for you?
That was really brutal. What I've realized over all these years is that the thing I'm okay with is just working a lot. And where I get into trouble, I just work harder. At this point, I've just sold this tea room. The restaurant's kind of doing okay, and the revenue's going up. And I'm like, okay, great. We're finally getting our head above water here. This is cool. Get involved in this business that I have no idea about, and I'm running into a slow car crash because A, I have no idea. B, the franchisor support is really set for people that are from the sector and getting local authority contracts and all this kind of thing. I'm like, oh, that's not me. And the contract I went for, that I tended for, basically gave me a two-finger salute. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to run out of cash within this many months. Really, In and amongst all of this, I'm living 1 hour away from my restaurant, and in the other direction from my house, I'm living 1 hour away from the office. I like to train, and it keeps me sane. So I'm getting up at 6 a.m., hitting the gym, then driving an hour to the office, getting there for 9 a.m., doing a 9 to 5. Because of the traffic at 5 o'clock, it's peak hours. It's taking 3 hours to drive to the restaurant. I'm driving there. I'm then working there because though my team is doing all the stuff, I've got a lot of regulars at this point because I was there so much, I had nothing else to do prior to this. And so I
Yeah.
was there all the time. And then they're coming in for the banter and they're, oh, yeah, another limoncello. And so they're like, oh, if Amrit's not here, we'll come back tomorrow. So I'm like, God damn it, now I've got to be there every night. And so I'm then working there until 1 o'clock in the morning, then driving an hour back home until 2 o'clock in the morning, then spending an hour on the phone to my then girlfriend, now wife, to keep those wheels spinning until
Yeah.
like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm literally sleeping for like 2.5 to 4 hours on a good run
Oh my.
for 18 months until I then, my fortunes turn at the home care business, and then I was right. Okay, I need to sell the restaurant. I look back now and think, oh, how fun! But God, it was brutal at the time.
It
So,
sounds like it was brutal at the time. One of the things you mentioned earlier is that when you reach a roadblock or a tough time, you just work through it. You put your head down and keep working through it. You're not thinking about that you have to work through it. You just work through it and keep pushing until you move to the next thing.
yeah, I mean, I'm a first generation immigrant, right? So my parents came over in the 60s and 70s, and they do not complain. You can take one of their shoes away and they'll just carry on walking. It's that immigrant mindset.
Mhm.
The way I was raised was very much you just don't complain and you either get on with it or you don't. But don't talk about it, basically. Just get on with it. My attitude is very much like that. I'm not a huge complainer, and I find that very difficult. My mental framework is if there's a problem, I can either fix it, so then there is no problem, or I can't fix it, which means there is no problem.
Yeah.
I can either do something or I can't. But either way, there's no need to complain about it because there is an end goal here, right? Invariably, you can usually fix stuff. And sometimes it's a timing issue, which might blow up in your face, but then you just go again.
So what turned around in the home healthcare business?
So I then mentor Neil Farnworth, who started working with the business. He had set this up in New Zealand and sold up and then came over to the UK, started working with the firm, the franchise I was with. He only worked with them for a few months, but we stayed in touch. And he just told me to get up and go. And I just needed someone to give me direction. He's like, go run north, right? And
Mhm.
speak to everyone that you can running north and shake lots of hands and basically start saying yes to things and then shake more hands. And then we came up with a sort of sales framework of, right, I'm going to speak to this many people in person every single week, whether I can convert the work or not. And then when the lead flow comes in, I'm going to then get out there right now and I'm going to start saying yes to stuff. And then I'm going to just figure out how to do it. And I went from almost broke. Top line revenue was about 10, 12 grand a month.
Mhm.
Essentially, I could pay the bills, but I couldn't pay my impending loan. And I went from that in April to about 68K in November of the same year.
Wow.
And that was really powerful for me to see, if I do the push ups in this particular way, here we go. I thought, wow, I wonder if I could just tell hundreds of other people like this and this would change their lives. And so that was where the passion for franchising really came in.
Okay. And so then that continued to evolve. You sold that business and now you've started Wallfinch.
Correct.
Everyone expects you to have all the answers, but who's asking you how you're doing? Who's helping you think through your challenges? Engineer Your Success Insiders is my private podcast designed specifically for you. It's like having a coach in your corner focused on helping you win at work and at home. One story, one insight, one action that you can take, all wrapped up into real coaching insights that you can use. Join at engineeryoursuccessnow.com/insiders. Let's talk about what you're doing right now.
Great, let's talk about it. My interest in Wolfinch is really something else. I mean, you've got three stakeholders in home care. You've got the care worker, the client, and the entrepreneur behind the whole thing. Invariably, we focus on the care worker. They are the engine room of the whole thing. They absolutely are the people that we should focus on. How do we make their working life better and so on? A lot of people talk about it, but I think it's often the small things and it's non-monetary, because if you're not paying enough, you're not paying enough, right?
Yeah.
So that's a whole problem anyway. But if you are paying enough, then you've got non-monetary things that require some thought. Can I be empathetic? Can I really think about this person? If I think that one person might generate 40, 50,000 pounds a year for me, if that was a consultancy client, how would I treat them? Right. So then mindset for the client, it's then saying, well, okay, if this was my own mother or father, what would
Mm,
I do?
yeah.
And that impact, and saying, well, okay, the regulator's standard is here, but mine's here. So what does that mean? Am I looping in the family? Am I making sure that it is the end person's choice whether they want the red pill or the blue pill or the green flannel or the pink flannel, or they want me at 7 o'clock to wake them up, or they actually rather are coming at 11? Do they want a whiskey at 4 o'clock? And that's kind of on them, right? And I think it's really putting that person's needs in the middle of that whole discussion. But the place that we don't really talk about is the entrepreneur behind the whole gig. That's the thing I've really doubled down on that and focused on the franchising aspect of saying, well, how do I take you, James, who may have never experienced anything to do with home care, and make you an expert in home care and help you create a thriving business that generates £100,000 for you in your back pocket every year? And how do I break that framework down to say, this is what you're doing today, this is what you do on day 89, and this is how we get to a pound?
Yeah.
For me, it's really focusing on that entrepreneur behind it by accident and now on purpose. My true mission has become about redefining home care in all aspects, redefining the way we deliver it, the technology behind it, but also the brand. Me being here today is very much about trying to rebrand home care. Releasing a book this year has been about me redefining home care, starting a YouTube channel or on Instagram or LinkedIn. It's all about that and saying, well, how can I rebrand what we're doing as a sector? There's so many interesting careers, so many beautiful stories, and also such thriving businesses, but we're not talking about it, right? And so for me, the big mission has been around that redefinition of the whole thing.
Okay. So redefining home healthcare from all of those different perspectives, being able to talk about the stories, the benefits, the life changing narration of what's actually going on in the industry.
Correct.
So you mentioned the book that you're writing. Has the book come out yet? When's the book
It's
coming out?
come out, came out earlier this year.
Okay.
And all of the proceeds go to the Care Workers Charity in the UK.
Okay.
And you can find it on Amazon. It's called Time to Thrive, the Home Care Revolution. In that, I outline a 12-step guide on how we can help to redefine home care in our own special way. And one of those things I really think about is brand, and saying, well, okay, are we using the rap video on Instagram? Because if we're talking to the Gen Zs, what are they after? Why does it have to be so PG? Let's push the boundaries and talk to our audience in the way they want to be spoken to.
No, I think that's clear in any business. And I think that your entrepreneurial kind of endeavors from the other things that you've done, you definitely bringing that into the space because you're talking about speaking to them in their own language or speaking to them in a way in which they can actually do something with it. So I like to say that everything I needed to learn about communication, I learned in the first 3 years of marriage. And that's because,
Good, very good.
yeah, that's because my wife and I communicate totally differently. I had to learn what's the best way for me to package the information that I have. How do I need to present this in a way that she can hear it and listen in terms of really understand it, and then make a decision based off of that?
It's so interesting that you say that, James. It took me longer than 3 years to figure this out. I've been with my wife for 15 years and we've been married for 10. By the time I realized when she's got an issue, she needs to vent and offload. My instant reaction is to fix things. I'm very much a fixer, especially when it comes to work related stuff. I go sort of robot mode of like, let's do this. And many years later, she still doesn't like this approach, but it's less explosive. Is me asking her, well, what do you need from me here? You need me to listen? Do you need some advice? And on the rare occasion, she does want some advice from me, and I can give that. But most of the time, it is, I want you to hear me. And I'm like, cool, I'm here. I'm not non-judgmental, and I will give you my opinion. And actually, franchising has really helped me in my marriage. I think I'm such a doer that sometimes franchising has forced me to listen. I find that such an interesting thing that you've said, because I've probably not reflected on it in the same way before. And I think understanding how people communicate is just so important to all walks of life, or business, personal, whatever. I've more recently got into a bit of disc profiling, and whatever you think of it, I think the headline point is that demonstrates that you communicate differently to I do, and there's a style. I want short bullet points, get to the point.
Yeah.
My sister that works with me wants lots of story, lots of detail. She was just on a call with me now, just before this, and she had a problem. She started, in 1987, you were born, and now we're here. And I was like, hey, look, what's the issue? I'll stop you right there. I've got 90 seconds. What's the issue? Whereas if I've got to tell her the bad news, I know I can't give her a call if I've only got 90 seconds. I need 15 minutes, because I need to give her 3 minutes of how was the weekend. I need to give her 5 minutes of backstory, and then we can dig into it for 5 or 10 minutes. It's understanding that, which historically frustrated the heck out of me, because I just want to bam, go, next problem. But I need to, really comprehend that the person on the other side of it might not be that. I've got people that work for me that need both. Some give me one-liners. Others give me lots of story. Both are fine, but it's just communication.
No, I think that's key. I just did 2 articles about using the disc profile. The first one was for helping leaders to become more self-aware, just being able to understand your own style when it comes to communication and how you respond to things. And the other is, how do you lead your team when you have different communication styles? That's both not only for you as the leader, but also for the people that you lead, understanding what your preferred style is, and you understanding more about their preferred style as well.
That's very interesting.
When you were thinking about coming on this show, what's the message that you want to make sure that our audience walks away with?
That's a really lovely question. For me, I think there's a few different things. You talk about engineering your success.
Mhm.
And I think for me, the big story is do the thing that your competitors are not doing, and then do it really well. So many of us try to copy our competitors, right? I've got competitors that are doing 10x what we're doing, and they're very good. I'd get my own mother to get care from some of these guys, but they're very good at different things to me. And I can either spend lots of time, effort, money, resource, whatever it is, copying that and saying, James is really good at this style of podcast. I'm going to do this style of podcast, same background, all of that. And it's going to be exactly the same sort of questions. I can either do that. Alternatively, I can say, right, James, well, what is he not good at? Oh, right, okay, he's not good at these live podcasts and going actually live, and I'm going to do that. That's going to be my thing. And, really thinking about who are my top 5 competitors? What are they doing really well? What are they doing shockingly bad? And then double down on the things that they're doing shockingly bad. In the white space is where careers are made, fortunes are made, businesses are operated, because that then also gives you a full spectrum within any sector.
That's absolutely great. If someone's listening to this episode and they want to connect with you and hear more about your franchising efforts, or maybe they're in the UK and they want to get in on the home healthcare franchise, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I'm pretty easy to get in contact with, to be honest. I actually also have my own podcast, which is called Walking with Wolfinch, and you can find that in all the usual spaces. My YouTube channel is called Amrit the Walking CEO. My Instagram is Amrit Wolfinch, Dhaliwal on LinkedIn, and wolfinchfranchising.com is, our franchising page.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm very passionate about is helping people with their journey. I was just having a meeting with someone the other day who really wanted to buy a franchise. And I was like, look, this isn't for you. I'd love to take your money, but if I was you, I would do this. And I think that's, for me, is the thing that I'm very passionate about, just helping people find their direction.
Okay. And we'll include links to all of the relevant connections in the show notes. I talk a lot about winning at work and at home. And I guess I'll give you a background on how I define the concept of work-life balance. People may talk about work life balance. We may get the picture of the scales that are perfectly balanced, everything is static and in equilibrium. And I know that that's BS. Life doesn't work that way. I typically describe it as if you're riding a bike. And so you're constantly shifting gears. You stay balanced by moving forward and adjusting to what's in front of you. There are times when you have to lean more in one direction, and there are times that you have to lean into the other direction. But during that whole process, unless you fall off the bike, you are balanced. So that's just the
Very
general
nice.
concept. And so for you, we can approach this one or two ways. One would be, what's your definition of winning at work and at home? Or what suggestions or advice would you have for one of your franchisees that may be dealing with that concept?
It's a lovely question, James, and it's a damn hard question as well to answer. I'm going to give you your Instagram soundbite now, so get ready for it. I talk about work-life integration as opposed to balance because I don't really believe there is a balance. The two things are very much integrated with one another. What do I mean by that? I'm the father of three young children, right? So my eldest is 6, then I've got a almost 4-year-old and 11 months, right? So we're very much in the thick of it, and I try to be a full-time dad and a full-time entrepreneur. And my work is very intense all of the time. So my advice is be kind to yourself. Understand that you cannot do it all. I know that if I left my wife and kids, I could be a great entrepreneur because I could just do that all night long. I love work. I'm obsessed with working. But I also know that if I left Wallfinch and was a stay-at-home dad, I'd be an amazing dad. The point is, neither one of those two worlds is going to happen. And what I need is the two worlds to be integrated. I live very firmly on a diary, 30-minute blocks my whole day from 5:30 in the morning until the time right now is 8 minutes past 7 in the evening. My diary until 8 p.m. today is 30-minute blocks, and here we go. And within that, I've got get the kids ready for school, PT, make sure I pick them up, focus time. I took them swimming, done bath time, had my meetings, my management meetings on Monday, done all of that with the team and so on. And then the point is that rather than compartmentalizing it, I've integrated the two things.
Yes.
What I've got very good at doing now, because I've got a team around me, is that after 8 p.m., I probably will be free. Or on a weekend, I invariably will be free now and will only tune in on certain things if I absolutely have to. On those times, I run my personal life as I run my professional diary. Am I taking the kids to the class? Am I doing the park with them? Are we going to the farmer's market? What are we doing? So I really focus on trying to run my personal life as I do my professional life. Most of the time, we really care about winning at work, and so we focus on it. I arrange the meeting, I turn up to the meeting on time, and so on. My personal life, I'm like, oh, whatever. I haven't spoken to my best friend in 6 months. Don't talk to my parents. I haven't been out with my wife. Which one of these kids is mine? So let's really focus on our personal lives in the way that we do our professional. What is the meaningful thing that you're going to do with your partner this week? If resources are an issue, money is an issue, can I go for a walk with her? Because that's free. If I don't have childcare, can I go for a walk when the kids are at school? Can I carve out 30 minutes in my diary during the day? What am I going to do with my kids? Do I take them to the clubs? Do I leave my phone and have breakfast with them? Because when they grow up, what are they going to remember? Dad was working, or dad was actually speaking to me? What is the fun, bantery thing that I can do? And how quickly can I change hats? My eldest nephew is 23 years old, and growing up, he lived with me for a bit. And the thing I used to think about as he was living with me, I was getting busier and busier, but I used to spend loads of time with him. And then obviously that time reduced.
Mhm.
I thought, well, okay, rather than just getting in speed punches, let me get in a real heavy right hook. What can I do that is meaningful, big, again, not necessarily expensive, but just really meaningful? What is he going to remember for the rest of his life? That time.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. It's then saying, am I here? Am I focused? Am I present? And being able to switch hats quickly. For me, winning comes down to what is the aim? All right. Have taken the choice to be a good dad, good husband, and a good CEO, right? Which means that I'm actually probably not the best son I could be, and that I feel upset by. I'm probably not the best friend that I could be. I feel upset by that. But something's got to give.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. I've now, after many, many years, allowed myself to say, okay, that is fine. I've had those conversations with my parents, with my friends, with my siblings to say, hey guys, this is what life looks like for me. This is what's okay for me. And I'm going to have this clear communication with you to tell you that. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but this is what I need to focus on right now at this stage of my life. Will it always be like that? Probably not. Is it like that right now? Yes. But in order for me to win at home and at work, I have to do this. Otherwise, the wheels will fall off.
No, that's beautiful. Our definition of success changes as life continues to evolve. You're describing to me is how you are redefining success based off of what's important to you right now. And that doesn't mean those other things aren't important, but that's not how you're defining winning right now. It's a beautiful answer. And I appreciate you taking the time to answer the hard question.
Thank you.
And so the last one is this. Now I want to give you the opportunity to be the interviewer and I am the interviewee. What question do you have for me?
That's a good one. You sort of feel drawn to ask, what would you say to your younger self? But that feels too cliche, right?
Yeah.
What has been in the last 5 years, the one thing that you've learned that you think, gosh, if I'd known this early, this one thing, I should do more of this?
I think it's focusing on one thing and continuing to pursue that until it evolves sufficiently to support itself or to build so that I can then move on to something else. For me, I've been doing full-time entrepreneurship for 3 years. I don't have the 15 or 20-year history that you do. It's been 3 years for me. When I think about the evolution of my business or the evolution of products and services, it's okay, I can do this, I can do that. There's always something else that you can do. But what I found success in is focusing in on one thing and building that thing to a point so that it becomes a foundation for the next thing.
Yeah, I think that hyper focus is really something, especially in today's day and age. Everything's so shiny. I'm doing my thing here and it's going somewhere. All of a sudden I see what James is up to, run after that. And then Steve's up to that and I'm going to run after that. I just think hyper focus is really cool.
But it's been a great ride for me and continues to be taking this entrepreneurial journey.
Great. And congratulations on hitting 3 years and, long may it continue for you.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So Amrit, thank you for spending some time talking to us today. Hi, this is James, the coach in your corner. As you may have noticed, this is a little different than the closing I've been using in the past. What I want to do here is highlight one practical takeaway from this conversation, something that you can actually use this week to help you win at work and at home. One thing that really stood out to me in this conversation with Amrit, instead of labeling every challenge as a problem, he uses a really simple filter. Can I do something about this right now? If the answer is yes, he acts and it's no longer a problem. If the answer is no, he recognizes that this is out of his control, and that doesn't mean it disappears, but it's no longer treated as a problem to be solved right now. At that point, it becomes a task to be delegated or deferred. Here's how you can apply that this week. The next time you hit a roadblock, something that is stopping you from moving forward, what I want you to do is to pause and ask yourself this question. Is this something that I can act on today? If it is, then I want you to define what that next small action that you can take is. If it isn't, acknowledge it and then decide what are you going to do. Are you going to delegate it or defer it? This one simple shift helps you to stay present, to make clearer decisions at work, and to avoid carrying unnecessary stress with you at home. That's one practical way that you can keep moving forward and create more space so that you can win at work and at home. I'm Dr. James Bryant, the coach in your corner, and your guide for winning at work and at home. Be great this week.